This is a topic I've been thinking about for a while now, and I think now more than ever that it's relevant. The question being, will the success of Bomb Rush Cyberfunk affect people's feelings towards the new Jet Set Radio? Bomb Rush Cyberfunk recently celebrated its 1 year anniversary, and for a lot of people, it's the Jet Set Radio future follow up that fans have been wanting for 2 decades now. It, for the most part, hit all the check marks that people have been wanting out of a new Jet Set Radio for a long time. Now we have a new game coming out very soon, and while there is tons of excitement for the return of Jet Set Radio, there's also a lot of skepticism and doubt that SEGA can actually deliver with this new release. People are worried, or they just don't believe, which is honestly fair. Some context is important here for where the skepticism and pessimism comes from. Jet Set Radio Future is 22 years old. We haven't gotten a new game since. We only got the original Jet Set Radio on Steam as our most recent game, but we haven't gotten a new game since 2002. After that, things have been radio silent for decades. However, that doesn't mean Jet Set Radio has been out of the picture at SEGA for these 2 decades. We've had the GBA port of Jet Set Radio, which, do we even have to say any more about this port? It stinks. Then there was the cancelled Wii game and the rejection of Jet Set Radio Evolution. On the bright side, Jet Set Radio was represented in a number of SEGA crossover games and tended to be one of the series that got the most love in these games. Beat was also featured as a guest character in Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, so those are some pluses at least. SEGA had to have known that Jet Set Radio is still very much beloved by its audience and has one of the most dedicated fan bases despite its niche. Why else is it always referenced, acknowledged, and represented like the way it has been all this time, despite not releasing a new game? However, Jet Set Radio fans have been tired of waiting and asking for a new game while SEGA leaves them on red like a side chick. Come 2021, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk got its first reveal trailer and the reception of it was very positive. For Jet Set Radio fans, this was the game they've wanted for 2 decades. There have been other games that have tried to capture that Jet Set Radio feel, but Bomb Rush Cyberfunk felt like that true spiritual successor. It was going through delays, but 2023 was going to be the year it finally came out. People held a lot of hope for that game. During the time between 2022 and 2023, there were two particular events that happened that I would say was the breaking point for fans of Jet Set Radio and SEGA's treatment of it. The first being the lack of acknowledgement of Jet Set Radio Future. This has always been sort of a thing, but when it comes to acknowledging Jet Set Radio, the original game tends to be the one that's most represented compared to Future. Not to say Future hasn't gotten any sort of acknowledgement. The first Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing game was all Jet Set Radio Future. However, when it came to merchandise or any sort of mention or promotion, the original game tends to be the one that gets chosen. I mean, this is also a fan base wide issue, but that's a story for another time. When the 20th anniversary of Jet Set Radio Future rolled around, SEGA practically said nothing about it. No type of, hey, this game we made years ago came out on this day, like most companies would do with their games reaching a certain age. It only added on to that feeling that SEGA didn't want to acknowledge Jet Set Radio Future, and it didn't help that the game to this day has still not had a port to modern consoles. This lack of acknowledgement was part of the reason why I, and others, took matters into our own hands to celebrate the game since SEGA wasn't doing it themselves. And the most infamous one, the Roller Champions collab. This one I remember very clearly. When I first saw the announcement of this happening, I was disgusted. I was very vocal about it too. Beat and Gum look hideous, and they were now in this free-to-play Ubisoft game that's not really being played and is riddled with microtransactions. Once this got around, the fanbase was not happy, which made the wait for Bomb Rush Cyberfunk even more eager because this was what was happening to the actual Jet Set Radio, while Bomb Rush Cyberfunk was going to be the game we've wanted. Team Reptile was doing what SEGA wasn't to most people. Fast forward to BRC's release, and it's received mostly positively from both critics and fans of skating games alike, especially Jet Set Radio fans. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk proved to be the skating game that we've wanted for so long, and it filled in that missing piece left by SEGA. Now we didn't need a Jet Set Radio 3. SEGA's not going to go back to it, and we have Bomb Rush Cyberfunk now. Then at the Game Awards 2023, we got the Power Surge trailer with Jet Set Radio being at the forefront as one of the returning SEGA games. Now we fast forward back to the present day and I ask the question again. Will BRC's success overshadow the new Jet Set Radio? I'd say it's possible because now more than ever, the new Jet Set Radio has tons of expectations placed on it. Not only does this game have to follow up what they did 22 years ago, but they're going in a completely different direction in both gameplay and art style. The gameplay is aiming to be a fully open world with a structure similar to the Grand Theft Auto games. All the characters have been redesigned once again and the art style isn't as heavily cel-shaded as previous games. The reception of the very few information we know of it has been mixed. Not so much about the gameplays. Some have talked about the gameplay, but that's never really important in just a radio game for some people. A lot of people's concerns comes from the new art style not really being cel-shaded and leaning more towards realism. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has shown that cel-shaded art style, like the OG game and Future, still hold up very well and are popular with people. The colorful and vibrant world of Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is visually appealing and is going to hold up in the years to come. Some feel disappointed about the new Jet Set Radio game not really going in that same direction. If it works, why change it? But I understand where SEGA is coming from. It has been 22 years since Future and they want to switch it up and go into a new style and structure to not only introduce something new to consumers unfamiliar with Jet Set Radio, but also give the old veteran fans something new to experience and sink their teeth into. However, people are very cautious about this new release because of how long it has been since Future and if SEGA could actually deliver with this new game. Honestly, it is a fair worry. SEGA's track record with their franchises, especially their older ones, they've been hit or miss. We don't gotta talk about Sonic's up and downs because those are well documented by all the big Sonic creators, but it definitely took a lot to bring Sonic back into a better light than how he was being viewed before. We have other extreme examples though. Nice Journey of Dreams didn't do too well following up the Saturn game after a decade hiatus. The Space Channel 5 VR game was super forgettable as a follow-up to the two games after a decade of hiatus. Golden Axe Beast Rider did not do well as a follow-up to the Genesis games after decades since the last one. We haven't had a proper Crazy Taxi game since the third game in 2002. Who knows if this new one will even end up being good? So, people's fear in SEGA making the new Jet Set Radio is completely justified. I have faith that the new game can turn out well, and I hope my faith doesn't turn into disappointment. That's all I can say about that. I've yapped a little too long about my own personal thoughts on this topic, so I decided to ask people on Twitter what they thought about this topic. I made this post on Twitter and got a lot of responses. And I was able to gain 3 perspectives out of this on how people feel about BRC overshadowing the new Jet Set Radio. I'll put some on the screen. The first side feels that Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has proved that this genre of games is still very popular and has become the true Jet Set Radio Future sequel that people have always wanted. BRC hit all the notes that now it feels like Jet Set Radio 3 has massive shoes to fill if they expect to outdo or be just as good as Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Jet Set Radio 3 would have to be fantastic, and if it isn't, we still got BRC as the game that we've wanted. The second side feels that BRC and Jet Set Radio 3 can coexist. We can have 2 cool skating games. BRC captured the classic Jet Set Radio gameplay that we love, while the new Jet Set Radio will bring something new. If the new game turns out good, then everyone wins. The third side feels that no, BRC will not overshadow the new Jet Set Radio because Jet Set Radio is more impactful to people. While they feel Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is a good game, it is missing some of the things both in gameplay and style wise that made Jet Set Radio so special. Even if it is niche, there are people more likely to recognize Jet Set Radio before Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. People have been waiting for a new Jet Set Radio game for so long and they're finally getting it, which for them is more important than Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. I believe all 3 perspectives are very valid and very interesting to see. People got a lot of strong feelings about the new Jet Set Radio. Whatever SEGA plans to showcase soon for the game, it's going to have a lot of eyes on it to see if they can do this game right. With everything being said, I'll leave off with this. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is a fantastic game on its own with a strong community, and it reminded me of all the things that I love about Jet Set Radio. Seeing Jet Set Radio return is still mind-blowing to me, and I can't wait to see how this game turns out. I truly want it to succeed. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and comment your thoughts about it. And if you're interested in seeing more of my content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you can get a notification for my next upload. Also, make sure you go into the description and follow me on all of my socials. Thank you all for watching and have a good day.